We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity.
We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. As if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy.
Silence! The great and powerful Oz knows why you have come.
You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it! My life has value.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature.
Don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts.
It's time to buckle up for making sense of the madness.
And who loves you? And who do you love?
Hey everybody, Jason Bermas here, and we are now less than 48 hours away from the anniversary of an assassination of a president that is still just as controversial today as it is when it happened. Maybe even more so because case closed. We've got all the documents. Donnie T put on his Superman cape. He declassified everything. We now know the full truth about JFK and MLK and RFK, right? Well, I'm here to tell you that's a bunch of Johnny nonsense, and there is still plenty to know. And we are going to take a deep dive with an individual who has really researched this. I ran into him via the 9/11 conference in D.C. His name is Elijah Milam. We're going to be getting to him and where you can find his raw article. And one of the greatest things about this article is not just the evidence and the narrative in which he puts forward, but he backs up the bull snap with the actual documents. And you know what a stickler I am for the source material, so I too can take a look at this stuff. So this is like a must watch. There's nobody right now talking about, I mean, everything is Epstein, and even on my end, we're doing a lot of the Epstein work because that also kind of integrates with this idea that the Central Intelligence Agency, the intel networks, they can hide things from the public even if we think we're getting the full truth. But before we get into all of it, you know the drill. Thumbs it up, subscribe, and share. I cannot do this without you. Please consider supporting the broadcast via the Buy Me a Coffee link down below or the PayPal for big donors, $5, $10, $15. It means the world to me. We want to thank Marigold Resources, buying and selling a business. They support this broadcast. Go check them out, marigoldresources.com and then rcreader.com. We got an actual print independent media operation out here. My man McGreevy runs it. Go check it out. And every time I ask you guys to do this, we lose followers, and that's fine. We've lost another 6 since the last time. But follow me on X. I'm going to be posting this raw article amongst other things. So if you want the raw stuff as well, don't just give me a subscribe here. Come to X as well. So this is the article in question, and I am going to just tell everybody good luck finding it because my guest had actually given me the link, and I just typed in his name and JFK or Substack, nothing came up. So it is CIA's black tape seals most sensitive JFK records. That's what you want to do. Or you just want to go to Elijah Milam's Substack. Elijah, thank you so much for coming on the show. Now, before we even hit JFK, I mean, you're a young guy. Let's hear your background and how, first of all, you even care about the subject of the assassination of Kennedy. I don't see many people in your generation really caring about that event that much. And then how you got into the research arena.
Well, thank you for having me. I graduated and, I don't know, I wanted to get into who shot him, whatever. There's 60 years of research, so I figured, you can probably find out who did it. You just have to put it together. And one day I was looking for, something on Oswald, and I came across a certain file type. It was really weird. It was called a black tape 201 file. And normally CIA holds just a 201 file on people. So it was like really weird to hear this odd file type. So I sent a FOIA request to the CIA to see what the black tape was. And, the only person that really testified about it was Richard Helms. And he gave a completely different answer than what the CIA gave me. And then that opened the whole thing up. And, essentially they are using a system he implemented within days of the assassination to hide records responsive to Oswald, among other things. And it's still being used today. But, I mean, I have my own theories about the Kennedy assassination, but this was one of my big discoveries. There aren't that many black tape 201 files released. It should be noted that any file that is considered too sensitive to be seen can be black taped to hide normally just an operational relationship, but also other sensitive matters. And I have an example of where they do, classify another. It's not really a classification, but they try to hide other files, not specifically even assassination related, but it could be any file.
So let's get into this idea of a black tape file in the first place, because, it sounds spooky, but then you find out it's actually pretty practical in the manner that they put it into place. It's not just telling you it's black tape because it's black ops or it's too sensitive. It's so sensitive that these files apparently are placed in an envelope and then a 1-inch piece of black tape. I would imagine duct tape, something like this, folks, right here. Well, look, we got a little black tape right there. Maybe this one's a little thicker than 1 inch, probably 1.5, but 1 inch. And then they seal the file in that manner to know that it cannot be tampered with. Where does that information come from?
Well, that was in part of the records that they gave me, and I have links to those, what they look like. I mean, they were generous enough to even send me a diagram, and they use 1-inch black Scotch tape. They put it on the top right corner, and that basically tells people who can or can't open it because only certain people have access to it. But the key thing is it restricts the file to only certain offices. So if we're, looking for records to declassify on Oswald and we can't find his office's security file today, it would have been restricted using black tape. So only certain offices would know where it is. And so genuinely the record center, who actually wasn't allowed to open these record types after the assassination, could say, we can't find anything.
So, I'm showing the document right here next to you. But this is Richard Helms, the then head of the Central Intelligence Agency, being asked directly about this black tape file system. Now, he denies any kind of knowledge about this. And again, I want people to read this article, but we're kind of going to let the cat out of the bag, that not only does he deny that he's ever heard of the term black tape and knows what it's in reference to, but later on kind of jokes with the press about Oswald and his relation to the Central Intelligence Agency. And he just doesn't remember whether or not they had that relationship. Actually reported on by the Washington Post. So, what is your view on what a guy like Helms does know, doesn't know, etc.? Oh, it looks like we lost him. Froze right up. Is everything frozen? You guys are watching me. Man, we're gonna. Yep, I'm getting the text message right now. Yep, I see you lost the connection. I saw that. Let's remove him from the call and remove it. And now you get to see all that. And now you get to see in real time. We're going to go over this. Gotcha. Well, there he is. All right, we got him back. Hopefully we got him back. Apparently he is in a no internet zone. That one's weird. So here we go. Elijah, you back?
Okay. Yeah, I'm back.
All right. So before you froze up, I was getting into the Richard Helms connection. I was talking about both his denial of knowing what a black tape file was, but then later, jokingly, when the press asked about the association of Oswald with the Central Intelligence Agency, he actually says, "I don't remember." So,
but he laughs.
Yeah, and he laughs about it. So take us through Helms and whether or not there's any chance that he wouldn't have known what a black tape file was. And, essentially, it wasn't just black tape files. We had people come forward within the agency themselves saying that they saw files on Oswald. On top of that, you show in this that some of the people very early on in the investigation were talking about a possible connection between Oswald and the Central Intelligence Agency. So take us through Helms and then where you see that Central Intelligence Agency connection to Oswald.
Yeah, well, I mean, Helms at the time was DDP, director of the Deputy Directorate of Operations. So he would have been, if there was a conspiracy, he would have been, at the very top. He would have been aware at least. Well, it just so happens that the month before the assassination, he's revising how certain records are handled. One of those, and I mean, I have the regulations before and after, they sent me those. And the only thing he changed was how black tape files were handled. And specifically, he was tasked with investigating Oswald the day that they were supposed to determine whether there were any links to the agency. That day, he implemented the new policy, which essentially buried those records. It made sure that the record center couldn't open them, which, how do you determine whether he has a link if you can't open the records? But what was I going to say?
Well, you're talking about these connections with Oswald and the Central Intelligence Agency. You're talking about the position that Helms is in at that time period before he's the director, because these these hearings don't happen for just over a decade.
A decade and a half.
Yeah, a decade and a half after the assassination. But you don't rise into that vacuum of power, not having been part of these black operations at the top levels.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's no way that he couldn't have known what black tape files are. He made the regulation, and it specifically changed how they were to be handled, whatever. And one of the files that I have linked in the article literally says restrict to offices of DDP, whatever. That was his former position. So he would have been aware if there was any black tape file. The one you're showing right now is specifically, there was an initial regulation put down in memo format, and then a later one that revised it. That was the revision before the 1963 one. And it literally says the records will be handled in the normal manner by the record center. Mm-hmm. Well, he changed that. They were not to be opened by the record center after he made that revision. And it was the day he was tasked with investigating whether the agency was connected with Oswald. And after he made that revision, within hours, they did the first name checks to see if Oswald had any connection. And obviously they didn't find anything because they couldn't open the records that would have revealed that.
So where do you believe we are today with anything that has a black tape designation? Did this program ever end? Has it been essentially mitigated to something else? In other words, are they using other tools? Is this black tape file a catch-all not only for the Central Intelligence Agency, but the FBI, the NSA? What are your opinions when you've dug deep into this?
Well, certain filing systems, whatever, it's probably across government, not specifically to CIA. I mean, programs, like, they have certain ways of, whether it's how they handle files, whether it's how they handle sources, whatever it is, it's usually just the whole intelligence community. So it's not specific probably to CIA, although I haven't documented it yet anywhere else. But what was your other question?
Well, I was wondering how broad you think this goes and whether or not there's going to be any ability to get access to these files, especially when in regards to JFK. Obviously, you know they exist. Obviously, we have the FOIA system, but the FOIA system has been stripped down to where, you know, it's almost an impossibility for a civilian to get these files. Would it have to be an executive order? What kind of action could be taken?
Well, I tried requesting certain black tape files for key figures in the assassination, and what they came back to me with, I mean, they tried stonewalling me essentially, but...
Well, let's talk about that, because you asked specifically about George de Montchild, and he's somebody who's been in these documents for a very long time. People have speculated this was Oswald's CIA handler, certainly had connections to the agency, and you point out the fact that there's this process in which, when you're doing this, if the person is under 99 years of age, they will do this process. However, by the time you've requested them, what would de Montchild be, like 136? Like,
well, yeah, he was born in the early 1900s, so
yeah, okay, so 115, 125. So he would obviously be exempt, and he died a very, very, very long time ago. So tell us about that.
Well, I mean, what's really interesting is the two people that I filed requests for. It was Clay Shaw, the only man put on trial for assassinating Kennedy, and George de Montchild, who was the friend of Lee Harvey Oswald. Officially, the CIA, to this day, only under pressure, whatever, has admitted that they were both confidential informants, paid informants, and that was it. Well, this was a file that hid operational relationships. So there is something there that they're not letting us know about, and they're using that system to hide it. So whatever's in there, we could still figure out whatever, but they haven't been telling the truth, essentially, and we can figure it out. But, you know, these are major figures. I mean, if there was a conspiracy, George de Montchild was the link. The person that, this is just like, J. Walton Moore was the local, he was the head of the domestic contact service in Dallas, and for the CIA. And he approached George de Montchild to have him lay on, I think it was to talk to Oswald. Well, J. Walton Moore's senior, his superior at CIA, was Richard Helms. So, I mean, somehow, you know, but 2 days after the assassination, November 25th, there's somebody that's recounting operational interest, OI, in Oswald. Well, that was right before they sealed off all the files that would have revealed whether there was a link to Oswald or not. So we get their intent. I mean, you don't just seal it off 2 days after you're talking about, yeah, there it is. Which I haven't, this is all happening in the same division, by the way, all under the GDP. So
what are your opinions on the fact that, you know, you look at Oswald, obviously, you know, it's not debatable that he had a military background. But then you have the Central Intelligence Agency aspect. There's some documentation to suggest maybe he was trained by the Office of Naval Intelligence on behalf of them. He certainly traveled overseas a lot. You know, you can portray him as this nut, but, you know, he was able to go overseas, learn these languages, have these relationships with women. Seems like a very capable guy. And then you have the connection to the FBI and supposedly working with Warren C. DeBrew, who follows Oswald to Dallas from New Orleans, where apparently they had a relationship, according to another informant. What are we looking at here? Are we looking at somebody who was a multi-layered spy?
Yeah, I mean, he was in the Marines. I mean, it isn't really clear what all what all the agencies he was a part of. So the Office of Naval Intelligence literally told the ARRB in the 90s that they destroyed the file on Oswald. So, I mean, under orders not to. So they were pretty blatant about it. But in terms of other intelligence agencies, I actually have a record that the Warren Commission tried to destroy, that it was brought to their attention, his informant number, if he was a FBI informant. And Alan Dulles, the former director of the CIA, it isn't in the article, but this is just one that I have. Alan Dulles said, "I think this document ought to be destroyed," because he didn't want a discussion about Oswald being an FBI informant on the record. But I have that they were, at least it was a big enough claim that they had a commission meeting on it, and they tried to destroy the record that they spoke about it. So it was pretty important. But yeah, I don't think it's specific to CIA. I think he might have been working for some other people, but it isn't very clear what those agencies were.
Will we ever get any real documentation? Like, we talk about the idea that these black tape files still exist, but you just talked about files that have clearly been destroyed. And I would imagine, yeah, there are a multitude of files that have been destroyed. We know, for instance, in regards to 9/11 and the 9/11 Commission, that Sandy Berger was caught destroying files. So this isn't like a new practice either. You wonder what actually gets backed up. Obviously, we're in the digital age now. You wonder what has been digitized, what has been exempt from digitization. Is it just one of those things where we just won't know until they decide to release it, or never decide to release it?
Well, I mean, the CIA claimed that they destroyed all their records on MK Ultra, but they're still finding them. What they did was they lie about destroying them, so you stop looking because you'll just take their word for it. It's to cut off the inquiry. So they didn't, like, no one knew that they were using this system. So there's no reason to destroy it, because destroying it is a crime unless they have authorization. But so in other words, they don't need to destroy it. I don't know if they kept it, what the purpose would be, but they keep operational records on people for decades. So if they haven't actually destroyed it against the law, then they probably still retain it.
The Epstein story, as I alluded to in the beginning, is super hot right now. You had Mike Johnson come out and say that the bill in its current form would essentially make all classified documents on Epstein available for release. And he actually talked about how there's a reason against that, and that these documents should stay with the agencies they originated with. We know that Epstein gave information to the FBI. It's not clear who cut that deal. All that stuff's blacked out, but it's there. Obviously, we've talked about Israeli intelligence. The Central Intelligence Agency seems to be the real deal as well, especially when you talk about Iran-Contra, especially with things like Iran-Contra. Do you think that there could be things via Epstein that could be black tape? Do you think things via Iran-Contra could be black tape? You just kind of alluded to MK Ultra being black tape. What are your thoughts, especially in this environment where finally, I mean, after all those issues, whether it be MK Ultra, these assassinations, 9/11, the one that has broken through is Epstein. People have said enough is enough, stop lying. So what's your view on a black tape file system via someone like Epstein? Because if you read the bill that's passed so far, and who knows what they'll do in the Senate, the only real out here is supposedly that Trump would have to sign an executive order classifying certain documents so they could not be exempt. So I'll give you the floor.
Well, almost certainly that's where, if there's an operational relationship with Epstein, that's where it is. It's in the black tape system. So the interview I had with the former CIA operations officer, he basically said the black tape documents he saw, it wasn't that they were, extremely sensitive necessarily. They actually, the type that he saw wasn't sensitive enough. It wasn't important enough to disseminate widely in the agency. And that was because it was more of an informal record. It was more of like a base document, not one that is important enough to widely distribute, but they were black taped specifically to hide operational, like who brought that information, whatever. So the key thing about the black tape, system is that it hides, who their sources, whatever, are. Although it isn't constricted to just that. It could be any document in the CIA they want to hide because it's too sensitive. But mainly it's used to hide operational relationships. So on Iran-Contra, on, even like the 9/11 hijackers, I think 2 of them were supposedly, CIA. If there are records on them, they're black taped just because it cuts off the inquiry, because Congress, whoever, they're not looking for black tape files. They're looking for the official files. And, there's other complications with it, but yes, there are other files on people from other, controversial events, whatever.
Elijah Milam, tell people where they can find you. Obviously, ElijahMilam.substack.com, how they can support you, and what you're going to be working on next. Are you going to try to get this out into the larger arena in the public so that maybe there will be a possibility of accessing these documents, et cetera? What are the future plans?
Well, right now I have a few people that are going to try to, send it around. But other than that, just growing a platform. I made an X account, but it isn't completely set up. Maybe I can have you put it in the description later, but Substack is the only thing that I have, right now, at least. So
all
really
right,
just starting. I didn't expect to start a platform. I had to this weekend, whatever, because, something was happening and I was forced to, but it's a little unprepared.
Hey, that's fine. Listen, man, I remember the conversation we had. I thought it was a really, really riveting one. When I saw the article itself, it's extremely well put together, and like you said, all the documents are right here linked up. So this one, it probably like a 20-minute read. If you go to the documents, maybe you get another 10. It is a must read, especially with the anniversary around the corner. So I hope people go check it out. Folks, you know the drill here. I need your support. Please consider via the Buy Me a Coffee down below. Go watch all the documentary films I've done for free as well. Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, Shade the Motion Picture, Loose Change Final Cut, and Fabled Enemies. They're in the playlist section down below. And as always, it is not about left or right. It is always about right and wrong. I absolutely love you guys, and I will see you all on